The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.
Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast. We are very happy to have you with us today. We are still in season 10, although I think we're coming to the end of it based on how I just said that. Before we get into everything today, I just want to say a big welcome to all of our new listeners, anyone who's been here for a long time. We are thrilled to have you with us. And even more excitingly, we are thrilled to be a part of the Power Moms Network. At Power Moms Network, we are empowering moms and creating a community of mothers mentoring other moms to greatness. So with all that being said, today's show, maybe not as great, but greatness, I don't know. Today's show is all about anxiety and how we, deal with it. Like, how do we deal with it in any given circumstance? So we're talking about anxiety spirals, what we do, how they work, etc. Before we get into all of that, let me say hello to Tova, my lovely co-host. How are you today, Tova? What's going on?
I am good. It is a sunny day at the moment here in New Jersey, and I'm excited that it's sunny. The kids have a school pool party today. And so I assumed it was going to be rainy and cold. But it doesn't appear to be rainy and cold right now, and it doesn't appear like it will be rainy and cold. So I'm kind of excited that maybe maybe it will stay this way.
Maybe you'll actually get to enjoy the event.
I mean, maybe we'll see. We'll see. And I'm excited sort of to get back into the swing of things, right? This is my first week back at work. We're recording. I am excited to be recording. And I am the one to blame for this topic. And we're not just talking about anxiety specifically, like the big picture anxiety. We are talking specifically about the anxiety spiral or the worry spiral or catastrophizing. There's all sorts of words that I have read about when I was doing the research for this. And it's like that thing that's in between just your usual worry that I think that like a lot of people just kind of sit in on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
And like me worrying about it raining, right?
Right.
And then like panic attacks.
Right.
Like it's that in between area. And I think a lot of people, or at least a lot of people I'm friends with, I don't know, maybe it says about who we're friends with, I don't know.
Could be.
Like experience these feelings of like kind of extreme worry, that they get caught in this cycle, that this that they can easily spin out of control, and you're not all the way at the panic attack that's like the full blown. But it is interesting in the research that there are like physical, and there can be physical not side effects, but like signs of an anxiety spiral. Sometimes it's just the worry, but there can also be physical signs. And I thought that was really interesting.
It is. So I want to just stop us for a second. And I don't think I did a very good job of introducing this topic for today because I forgot what I was doing. I'm going to be honest with all of you. I'm not going to worry about that though. There will be no anxiety spiral about it. I'm just going to reset us a little bit and say, season 10 is all the how-tos, right? It's all like, what do I need to do in order to live the life that, I want to be living, whatever that looks like for me. And as Tova has been describing, anxiety spirals are not fun, right? Like it's not something that people really like wake up wanting to do.
Yeah.
And so the reason we're talking about this, of course, is to help you all understand how to, you're not going to cancel them out entirely if this is something you've been struggling with your whole life. Or even like for the last 6 months, right? Like it's not like an immediate relief situation. However, we can help you all start to understand how to change the process by which you're thinking about things and how to like put, kind of halt these anxiety spirals at some point in their progress. And the more, like we say with everything, the more you practice it, the better it gets. So that's why we're talking about this. I mean, it's an important topic regardless, but with respect to our season, that's why we're really focusing on this. So with that all being said, I want to turn it back over to you, Tova, to like keep us going down the spiral.
And also, I think because we really wanted to pick topics where there is a how-to, right? Like for a lot with anxiety, like, listen, there's lots of how-tos. We can say, like, go to therapy, write in your journal, and like we can tell you things to do. But there are actually, like, I was surprised with this topic how many how-tos there were and how similar they were to each other, right? Like sometimes I find these lists and it feels like people are just like pulling ideas out of their butt. And I'm like, okay, cool, good talk. But like these really felt like, oh, wow, this is based in science. This is based in like, there's a thing that's happening to your body and your mind. And there's a reason that it's happening more often. We are all living in a higher state of stress.
Yeah.
And this topic came to mind. I had a really special experience back in February where I got to go to a place called, it's not called the Cancer House, despite the fact that that's how I refer to it. It is Mary's Place by the Sea.
Yeah.
And it is specifically for women that have gone through or are going through cancer treatment, all of that. And they have this amazing virtual like services. And one of the services they had that I participated in was tapping afterwards, which is great. And I do enjoy the tapping. And people, they were like, before we did the tapping, the woman was asking, like, what do people experience? Like, what are people going through? And someone was talking about how to handle these worry spirals, these anxiety spirals. And it makes sense that if somebody's struggling with cancer or anything in their life, that it makes it harder to handle everything else.
Right.
Like that it is easier to, it would be easier for somebody to obsess about, like, is it going to rain on the day of the pool party? Like, what if it rains? What are we going to do? What if it gets, what if it gets rescheduled? What if it doesn't get rescheduled?
Yeah.
And like
the less in control you feel of the larger world around you, the worse this gets, I think.
Yes. And so let's start with I feel like we all know what it is, but let's start with a definition. And I've been using anxiety spiral, but worry spiral, catastrophizing, they were used fairly interchangeably. So an anxiety spiral is a mental state where a person's anxious thoughts escalate out of control and leave them feeling overwhelmed and unable to cope. The spiral begins with a single anxious thought, which triggers other anxious thoughts, and then the catastrophizing takes over, making everything feel like the worst case scenario will happen.
Right.
I think sometimes, that's kind of the extreme case. And you might picture somebody like in a ball, but like, I also think it can just be like, you're stuck in your car at the grocery store and you're just like overwhelmed and it takes you a couple minutes before you can get out of the car. Right. Like, it doesn't mean that you're truly frozen, but
there's a spectrum, I think is what you're trying to say.
Yes,
like there's a spectrum of responses that might be happening, and it could be anything from like you have a few seconds of like almost panic to you can't get up in the morning, right? Like it could be anything along those lines.
Yeah. And what I found was interesting was a lot of the articles that I read, they do address what's happening to your body first, right? So there is a physical reaction. Like anxiety is something we think of it so much as in our brain, well, first of all, we think of our brain as not a physical part of our body for whatever reason.
I was just going to say that there's like there's so many layers to this. There's that like mind body disconnect idea.
Yeah.
And then, then there's like everything else you're saying. But yes, your brain is a physical part of your body.
Like we think we talk about our mind as if it is not our brain. And we talk about our mind as if it is not our brain, which is an organ of our body, right? It's not like, oh, you know how your liver is going off, and your liver's just doing that thing it does, as if our liver isn't an organ.
Right.
So your brain's amygdala sends signals to the body to start pumping out stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. And the fight or flight system kicks in, which in turn sends messages back to the brain that a person is in grave danger. And this results in a racing heart, sweaty palms, and difficulty taking a deep breath. If you read The Body Keeps the Score, or there's a variety of books that talk about this, even Burnout. Burnout is the book. There's another book that there's a sweary word in the title, like
your brain, something like that. Yes. I started reading that as well.
All three of those books are great books that, The Body Keep the Score is kind of like, or Body Keep Score is kind of like the Bible, so to speak, of this topic. But all three of them do talk about how there's a problem because our brain is really wired for like the lion chasing us, and your body needs to complete the stress cycle. And unfortunately, we just live in a state of like the stress cycle.
Right. We never complete the cycle. So which is why
it's so easy to trigger the worry cycle. Cause it's like, oh, well, we're already halfway there.
Cool. Right. We're already in that elevated state. And so as you're saying, it's super easy to trigger it. Like I find it fascinating. Just for example, I was having a conversation with somebody who tends to catastrophize things. Like it's very all or nothing. And it's not even one of my kids, it's somebody else. And it's very like dramatic and like big. Right. And so whenever I talk to this person and they do something like that, or whenever I talk to anyone and they do something like that, it triggers my stress cycle. It triggers my anxiety spiral. I don't really get into these typically. Like it's not my default. I have plenty of other things happening, but this isn't it. But when people make their feelings so outsized, it immediately triggers my stress cycle. And it's a fascinating, like if you look at it objectively, it's kind of fascinating. Existing in it really sucks, to be honest. But
one thing you have taught me, just because your kids have, have a big use of the word like always and never and stuff. And so you have sort of outlawed those words in your home. And it's something that I have then taken to outlawing in my home.
Yeah, because it's so unrealistic. Like nothing is always, nothing is forever. It's not like that's just not life. And when I think that way, it makes me so stressed out. Like, really, it's always going to be like this? Oh my God, what am I going to do? Right? Like I can feel it in my body already. Like my chest is getting tight. I'm getting like nauseous. It's ugh. But if I take that away and I'm going, today is like that. And it's been like that for a while, but there were other times where it wasn't like that. And so we can get back to that place. So I'm not going to say always.
And, Glennon Doyle talks about this in, I don't know which book of hers. I want to say it's her middle memoir, which I kind of just love that she like goes all in on these memoirs. And like, she's like, this is how it's always going to be. And then like 5 years later, she's like, no, this is how it's always going to be.
Yeah.
But in one of her memoirs, she talks about how she keeps a journal because she has a lot of ups and downs. And when it's really high, she's like, everything's great. I don't need to keep this taking medication. I'm so great. But she needs to look at the low points to remind herself that like, oh no, like I do need to keep practicing all of the good habits that I'm practicing, because at some point I'm going to be down there again and I need to be able to rely on these habits. And then she needs to keep writing it out, because when she gets to the low points, she needs to be able to read the high points to remind herself that it doesn't stay up, doesn't always stay at the bottom.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that, there's a variety of things, and we're gonna get to talking about, believe me, I have lots of good how-tos on like how to both prevent yourself from even starting the worry spiral, and then also how to get out of them.
Yeah.
But one question is like, what triggers these spiraling anxiety? Not like your basic usual walking down the street anxiety that like you probably just always exist in, but like your the spiraling kind, the kind that makes it worse. And they described it as intrusive thoughts. So these, and I always picture intrusive thoughts as like them like hopping in your brain, and then you just need to like bat them away. And
You know what I picture it as? And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I always picture it as what's Kramer from Seinfeld, like flying in the door. And like that's the intrusive thought.
That is phenomenal.
And that helps actually be like, this is not a healthy thought. Like we're gonna let go.
Well, it's interesting because the other day my son was struggling with intrusive thoughts.
Mhm.
And I was like, can you put them on a bus and just like send it away? And he was like, well, then it comes back. I'm like, then put it on another bus and just send it away. And that didn't work. So I was like, what if there's a river going through your mind and you just like send it on a tube? And he's like, well, it comes back. I'm like, yeah, but the river's still there. And you just keep sending them on the tube down the river.
Just wave it on by.
Just like wave, yeah, like wave it down the river. And I mean, I don't know that we came up with the best option, but I do think everyone, like you have Kramer, like you can find a thing. Like I kind of picture them as like a little buzzing bee, like like swatting it away. I think whatever worked for you. I think half the battle is recognizing, oh, this is an intrusive thought. Like, and thoughts aren't real. Just like as awful as it is, and as much as we want to validate feelings, like feelings aren't real. Feelings are very real, and you want to validate them, but also
they're also just whatever's going on in your brain at any given time, right? Or your body. Like you're making them up.
Yeah. So when you have an intrusive thought and it is paired with like a major life stressor or just a constant state of stress, right? Like maybe there isn't. And I think that we are so easy to dismiss life as stress. Like I saw in a recent moms group, not a lawyer moms group, because I would have loved to see the responses in a lawyer's mom group to this question, but just like a local moms group. And a woman was like, I have 2 young children and I work full time. And my mother-in-law and husband seem to think that I should like not be stressed by just doing all the things. And he thinks I need a therapist because like, why am I so stressed by keeping the house clean and making dinner and doing all of this? And like, I don't know, is something wrong with me? And like people were very kind in their responses and no one told her to find a divorce attorney. And I thought that was really respectful.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, no, nothing's wrong with you. There's clearly something wrong with your husband and your mother-in-law, though.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that like she was discounting the amount of stress that just like a job and 2 young children and maintaining like a house that doesn't have stickiness everywhere on it requires.
Right. Well, when you say like major life stressors, I think most people think of like somebody's died, somebody's getting a divorce, somebody has a disease that's chronic or acute, or it doesn't, either way. Like they think it's like a finite thing that has happened, and that is the major life stressor. Now, don't get me wrong, those are all super stressful, but also like life is stressful. Life in 2024 is stressful. We have a bajillion things going on, and a lot of them are, most of them are out of our control. And that in and of itself is stressful. Like that you can't, just be like, no, this is going to be the president. No, this is going to be my like basic human rights. Like these are big stressful things.
No felons are allowed to be president.
Right. Like this is all stressful, and it's not minor. It's not like, oh, I got bitten by a mosquito and it's super itchy and like I don't have any itch cream. Like that's a minor stressor. Maybe it's big, I don't know. But like,
I mean, it is a minor stressor until the worry spiral starts, and you're like, but there's more mosquitoes because of climate change,
right.
which I cannot control. And like,
yeah, don't go down that road. I can't, there's a roadblock in my head for that one.
Well, I mean, but it's funny because the coffee shop in our town had a complete renovation. Riley, you're gonna love it. I can't wait to take you because there's so many inspirational quotes about coffee on the walls.
It's my home.
I know, and I'm so excited. And I texted somebody and I was like, the coffee shop's finally open. I mean, it took it was a major renovation, and they were so aspirational to say they were going to be closed for 2 weeks. I almost chuckled when they were like, we're going to be opening in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay.
No.
But major renovation. It looks beautiful inside. And I texted a friend and I was like, it's reopened and it's different. And he was like, different, good. And I was like, it's different. Like, it's fancy and it's so pretty. But the one, but when it was before, it was like a safe, homey place for me. And it was comforting. And I'm like, this place is lovely and I will learn to love it.
Yeah.
But it is not what it used to be. And that is like causing me stress. And all the walls are so, I mean, they did such a beautiful job and I'm so excited to support them. I mean, they opened yesterday and I went and I got an iced tea today to support them.
But I think you're making a really important point that change is stressful. Like any kind of change, even if it's good change.
And I'm working so hard to embrace change, but I'm just like, but like the place that was before, like I knew the owners and they were so consistent during the pandemic.
Sure.
Like I could cry right now at it's just, it was a special place.
Right.
And yes, they have wonderful quotes about coffee on the wall, like find someone who knows your coffee order and like all these cool things. And I'm so inspired and I love it. But like it changed. And I think that had I not known, what if I went away for the summer and I came back and it was changed, I would have been agog. I would have been oh my God. So we got a little off topic, but common triggers other than a renovation to your coffee shop, traditional stressful major life events, like you said, personal relationship issues, comparing yourself to others on social media or in real, not social media, not real life. It's all real life, but unless we're in the matrix, overwhelmed with responsibilities, both at work and home, health concerns for yourself or loved ones, financial stress, and then just social situations that cause anxiety. That's real.
Yes. I had 3 separate, and I keep taking us off topic today, and
I love
that's just the way it's going to be. I had 3 separate parties over Memorial Day weekend. And if you know me personally, you know that I am an introvert. I'm an extroverted introvert. I love talking to people, but in big settings like that, where I don't know everyone and I'm not sure what it's going to be like and all those things, that's super anxiety producing for me. So I definitely had some of these anxiety spiral things happening. And I used some of the tools. So I'm excited to talk about this and be yeah, this works. So,
well, and I definitely wasn't comparing myself to you and thinking Riley got invited to all these parties with her neighbors and I didn't get invited to any parties for the Memorial Day weekend. And why doesn't anybody like me in my town? So I definitely wasn't doing that. And I definitely wasn't having a spiral of anxiety.
Yeah. And it's weird how these things infiltrate. And I use the word infiltrate on purpose because they're mean. They're mean things that get in your brain and in your body, and it takes over. And you're just all I need to do is go sit there and have a burger and chat about the weather. I don't know, whatever. I mean, I probably asked about people's childhood trauma, but whatever. You just do what you have to do and it's fine.
We will take a break in a minute, and then we're going to talk about how to prevent those infiltrating thinking, because we're not going to call it catastrophic thinking anymore. We're going to call it infiltrating infiltrators. But someone did just send me a funny little thing on Instagram, and it was when I'm talking to people who don't have childhood trauma, and it's this is kind of boring. It was funny. If you don't have childhood trauma, I think that's awesome.
Good for you.
Okay. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back.
Well, hello there, ladies. Are you ready to elevate your life and connect with like-minded souls? Join us every week at the Go Boldly Together weekly Women's Circle, where strength meets sisterhood. Dive into empowering discussions, share your victories, and navigate challenges together. Our circle is a safe space for growth and inspiration. Experience the power of collective wisdom and unleash your full potential. Don't miss out on the transformative energy. Click the link in our show notes or visit us at goboldlyinitiative.com/women's weekly group to learn more about our Go Boldly Circle today. Together, let's embrace the journey of personal development and let's celebrate that unstoppable force within each of us.
Okay, welcome back. So let's talk about how to prevent that catastrophic thinking, those infiltrator thoughts from infiltrating your mind, recognizing the fact that, yes, we will talk about like reducing stress, not stressful things, because that's not going to happen. But like, mindfulness and all that good stuff can help reduce your body's reaction because, as we stated at the very beginning, at the top of the hour, this is not just a mind in the like not your brain organ part, but like actually your brain's doing stuff. Like your nervous system is reacting to the anxiety. So we have talked many times on the show, and if you're new, you can go back and learn all about how we talk about meditation, but your body has physical benefits to meditating. Your body has physical benefits to grounding and mindfulness, and it is helping your nervous system when you do these things. And so if you take some steps to prevent, you can do things to help your body calm down so that you are less open to the infiltrators, essentially.
Right.
So one way is just to keep an eye on your thoughts. And I think this is huge. And I think that you and I, this is one thing, maybe it's just because we have to talk about it on the show a lot, but I have gotten a lot better at this. I am a lot better at like zooming out and being like, really, why are you comparing yourself to Riley and her barbecues? She's annoyed. She'd rather just be reading a book. Like, like why
she's currently sitting there struggling to think of what to ask people that sounds semi-normal.
Yeah, like it's just because all your neighbors are at the beach. Like, why are you like comparing yourself? Like, and it is really helpful when you can zoom out a little bit and just keep an eye on these thoughts. And I liked this example. I know last week we were talking about cultivating and farming the joy.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So I want to keep it going. So this is like thinking about and killing the fast growing vine digging out the roots of the spiral. I liked it. I like it.
I like that descriptor because you can, when you use imagery like that, it helps you to like latch onto the process of doing the thing, right? I mean, that sounds so ephemeral, whatever. But if you think about, your worry as being rooted in something, it helps you focus on what that might be. Like if your worry is rooted in nobody likes me, then you can picture nobody likes me as something, right? You can picture it as a ball of like rock or like a fire, or I don't know, whatever you want. And then you can rip it out at the roots, or you can throw water on it and put it out, or you can, like it helps you do the thing that you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it is really helpful because you can start noticing patterns that way too, as you become more aware and you're like, oh, this is always something that gets me. Yeah. What can I do to either, well, the next thing you can use your logical brain, right? So like, what is it about that thing that's always triggering me? Is it something that maybe I need to dig a little deeper, like keep digging deeper and figure out like, is it something that's triggering me from childhood, right? Did something happen that's like, this is a deep wound that like, that's why it always bothers me and causes the spiral, right? Like, and it's always this massive aha moment for me when I find that I'm like really frustrated with something and I've always bothered me. And I realize like, oh, that's because this happened, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And
I just want to note, because this happens to be the exact reason like that I get so anxious about other people's big feelings. And when you look back, it might not just be like one thing happened. It might be like how you were raised, what your family system looked like, the people that you were surrounded with. And those are bigger, harder roots to pull out, so to speak. And it's our weekly plug for therapy. Like that's a really good time to like think about finding a professional to help you deal with whatever programming you need to deprogram in order to move to the point where you can rip the roots of that vine out.
And now this is an absurd example, but I'm going to use it anyway. So yeah, so we mentioned last week that we're rewatching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We both have decided to do this. And yesterday I texted Riley, and spoiler alert from 1997. So sorry guys. So, if you haven't seen it, sorry. Buffy was like, Buffy and Angel are kissing. And like, I didn't even watch it in 1997. I don't know when I started watching it. I was figuring out it must have been on the DVDs that I watched it, because I don't think I would have waited until it was streaming, because that would have been like way later.
Yeah.
So, or maybe I binged it one summer. I don't know, but maybe I started watching it like halfway through. I have no idea, because I forget that we used to do that, right? You would just pick up a show like in the middle.
Yeah. You didn't have the opportunity to like go back and forth.
Yeah, and then like later you'd go back and watch. That's how I started watching Grey's. I was like, oh, I like Addison, and people would be like, oh, she's awful, because I had no idea that she was awful. Anyway, I digress. But that visceral excitement of Buffy and Angel kissing for the first time, it was like I was 16 years old. Like, it was like, oh my gosh. I was, and then she found out like 3 seconds later he was a vampire. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's a vampire. Like, I know he's a vampire. I've watched the show multiple times. I've watched Angel multiple times. But the visceral reaction to it was so real. I was like jittery.
Yeah, and you were a kid again.
I was a kid again. I was a teenage girl. And it speaks to how well done the show is, despite the fact that the showrunner is awful. But B, if that can happen, no wonder you're spiraling about something that happened repeatedly because of how you were raised. Like, I mean, it's a silly show. Like,
well, and that's a great point. And I know we need to keep moving, but like the things that will trigger you. And I know we don't like to use the word trigger anymore or whatever.
I mean, in this specific case, it is so accurate.
Yeah. And the things that will cause you to hyper focus on your worries or hyper focus on what might happen are unique to you. Like, just because it's just like any trauma or any experience we've all had, like we all experience it in our own way. And sometimes that's good and bad and neutral, and all of that's okay. Like one person's trauma is another person's like, woo, that was fun. I don't know. Like it's not, you don't have to fit in a box is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to fit within the confines of a definition in order to have the experience be traumatic or upsetting or triggering or whatever. It is what it is for you.
Yeah. And I think, and I think that is so important. And I think it's important that as you're figuring out, so the next big thing is like, you're using your logical brain, you're trying to challenge this negative feeling of like, okay, is this a threat right now? Right? Like, is this really a problem? Right. So like, if it rains at this pool party tonight, is that going to be a big deal? Like, does it matter? Like, what's the backup plan? Like, who really cares? But if you're having these issues over and over, and maybe it's the issue of plans changing, like maybe that's where my worry spirals keep happening, or, and then you want to dig a little deeper. It is important to figure out like where is that trigger happening, because you don't want to minimize. Like on one hand, you want to minimize the worry spiral and be like, this is not a big deal. This is not a problem. On the other hand, you want to be like, wait, why is this a big deal for me? Like,
Yeah.
there's
But you might want to separate those out in
Yes.
terms of timing, right? Like
Yeah.
if you are, and we're going to get into this momentarily, but if you are like about to sort of spiral out, it is not the time to be like, let me think about when I was 10 and how does that, like that's not the moment for that. But it is the moment for the other thing you're talking about of like bringing in that logical brain, challenging your thought processes and all that stuff. And be like, I don't have to worry about this. I can deal with this later. It'll be what it's going to, with the pool party, like whatever happens, happens. We'll deal with it later. And then like when you're not in a worry spiral, going back and going, well, why do these feelings come up every time I have plans that are out of my control, right? Like
exactly.
And so you can why can't I think of the word I want? You can separate those out by time, I guess. Is the best way to say it.
Yeah. And so things that you can do, I think one of the big ways to deal with worry spirals, anxiety spirals, whatever it is you want to call it, and even panic attacks, to however much you can control that, is recognizing early signs. And that it makes it incredible. That depends on how well you know your body, and your mind, as the separate thing from your brain, but also your brain and your body, all of it. Because I do think that some of it starts like maybe you get tense in your back or your neck. Yeah. And maybe that's the first sign. Maybe it isn't the worry in your brain. Maybe it's actually something gets tense. Maybe it's your hands start to sweat a little bit. Like maybe your nervous system starts to kick into gear before the worry spiral hits your consciousness.
Right.
And that's where, getting to know your body better, maybe through meditation, maybe just through breathing techniques. Like meditation doesn't have to be, I sit down for 15 minutes and I say, for 15 minutes. Right. It could be like breathing for a minute here and there throughout your day. Like it can be just being more mindful. Exercising, right? Like any healthy lifestyle adjustments. I think anything that makes you more connected with your body, it's going to lower your stress level in your body. Remember, worry spirals, I picture them. I don't know, this is going to get even worse. And I apologize once I see Inside Out too. Yes. But like, I picture worry spirals as like these little tornadoes that are just hanging out, like waiting to like party. And they really love a world with extra cortisol levels and like high stress levels. And so if you can lower that level by exercising and being in a healthier lifestyle, by sleeping, right? Like sleeping more, resting more. We need to talk about how you need to sleep more and rest more, even by having other healthy routines. Like anytime, if you like routines and you can give yourself a routine, if it's a healthy routine, like, and I don't mean healthy routine as in it's good for you, but I mean, if it's not something that you're so bound by that it doesn't become unhealthy.
Right.
If those are things that you can do to help reduce that chronic stress, it makes it like less of a place that a worry spiral can live. If we're going to continue the analogy, it's like not everywhere is a place that a tornado is going to pop up, right? Like there's certain areas that are more tornado prone. So you want to lower the worry spiral likelihood. I did read a lot of places that talks about medication. Obviously, that is a place that you would go to with your therapist and then your doctor, your psychiatrist, medical doctor. Right. But I wanted to leave it in the notes because it emphasizes this, that your mind is part of your body and that the brain is part of your body.
Right.
And we are so quick to separate the two. And we are so quick to be like, oh, if I can just reduce the stress in my life, okay, cool. We'll just, send those kids away, quit that job and not have any money problems. You'll be good to go.
Everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it bears repeating, like mental health is physical health. You treat your dis-ease the way that it needs to be treated, whether it's your spleen or your brain. It's all part of your body, and it all deserves to be treated well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I like this. Create a relaxing environment. I don't know why it makes me laugh.
It makes me laugh for a variety of child-related reasons.
But go do that. Good luck.
I can't even take that one seriously. Yes, if you can do it. You know what I do want to actually raise one point here. I have created a relaxing environment in my brain. It is a place I go when things get out of control. Now, that is something I've done through meditation.
So Riley disassociates.
I disassociate. No, but like if you want a minute, like if you need a minute,
Yeah.
like if you're totally overstimulated, or you feel yourself starting to worry tremendously, and you're like, oh, what do I do? If you can close your eyes for 30 seconds and imagine you're sitting in your happy place, like that can help you reset. That can interrupt that worry spiral.
So, and I will give a shout out to this place. I'm sure I've told this story before, but last year it was like 5 days before my surgery in August. We went to the beach with my mom. There was this freak thunderstorm. It was just a really weird beach day. But at the end of the day, I was going to leave and I was going to come home. And I was on the phone with a friend, or I was texting with a friend. I was like, yeah, I'm getting ready to leave. I have so much laundry to do. And I wanted to clean the house because my mom was going to come over, and then a friend was going to come over. All these people are going to come to my house to help me after surgery. And my friend was like, that's dumb. Like, no one's expecting a clean house when you're essentially having emergency surgery. I mean,
Right.
It wasn't emergency, but it was like a week and a half later.
It's close enough.
Yeah. And I was like, and he was like, just stay at the beach and read. Like, you want to stay at the beach and read, just stay at the beach and read. And one of my goals last year was to end the summer with that like feeling of like sticky, salty, like beach feeling. And I basically had my August stolen by this surgery and breast cancer. And so I was like, all right, fine. So I went back out on the beach and I read until it was so dark that another friend was texting me like, you have to leave the beach now because if a stranger approaches you, you will not be able to see them. It is
Right.
like pitch black. And I took that feeling of, I was gross. I was salty, the sea air, it was amazing. And I can still go to that place.
Right.
Like right now, I can still take those 30 seconds. I could do it in a PET scan machine. I can do it in an MRI machine. I can do it before surgery. I can do it when my kids are around, and I can feel the wind and the sticky salt. And like I was reading a lovely smutty book, and I can go to that place if I need to.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have a place in your mind, then maybe that is some of our homework. Like, fine, then it goes who knew that this was going to be so connected to our joy list? But like, let's find that place. I mean, I was on the beach for 2 hours reading a book on a Kindle on a blanket by myself. Like it doesn't have to be, and it's like on the Jersey Shore. Like it doesn't have to be, magical. But for me, that was exactly what I needed at the exactly perfect time. And it is the place I go. And if you don't have a place like that in your head, and I think you and I both have done meditations where we can go back to a place that we found in a meditation.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? It's just a pretend place in our head. Mm-hmm. So whether it's a real place that you remember from a vacation you were on, or a place you saw in a movie that you can you love the movie so much that you can like put yourself in, or something from a meditation, I think that is a really great way to also like hold off a worry spiral when you start noticing it coming on.
Yeah.
We'll take a break in a minute because we're going to talk how to stop one once it started. But I do want to just get through 3 more quick things. No, 2 more. But the opposite of what we just described is triggering books, TVs, or movies. So avoid those, right? Like if you know a book, TV, movie, subject matter, or something is going to trigger you, do not watch it. do not read it. Like, just don't.
Yeah. I mean, I do not read or watch or converse about any World War II books. Like, I just don't do it. Like, I don't talk about the Holocaust with a bunch of people. Like, I don't glorify it. Like those books make me angry. I get all upset and gross. Like, it's just, I'm not going to do it. And I don't judge other people for doing it, to be perfectly clear. Like, if that's your jam, cool. And if it brings you peace, wonderful. For me, it does the opposite. And so I just don't do it. And people are like, oh, you should read this great book. It's all blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't want to read a romance about the Holocaust. Like, that doesn't do it for me.
Right.
And I sound really judgy when I say that, but like, that's
Fine.
what
I read all
happens
those books. I enjoy it. So
that's what happens in my brain. But so you can pick and choose the things that you allow in your sphere, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you don't have to like something because everyone else does.
yes. Yeah. And so if you know something's going to bother you, even the daily news, like, and it is a hard balance because you don't want to be in a bubble and you don't, but you need to protect yourself. And, maybe it's something that you don't listen or you don't watch, but you listen, or you don't watch, but you read, or, you find what's right for you. But you can avoid things. The other thing is to build a healthy support system, right? Find the people, friends, family, and if necessary, coaches, us, therapists, all of those things to make sure that you have the support for your mental health. And there's, it's not everyone, I picture it sort of either like a pyramid, or like a circle, right? Like, you kind of have different rings around you because people are providing you with different types of support. And you don't want to be relying on everybody for everything. You want different people for different things. So with that, we're going to take one more quick break, and we are going to come back and we're going to talk about how to stop spiraling out of control, stop a worry spiral once it has started. We'll be right back. Hey there, Pod family. Have you ever wished you could stay in the loop with a little slice of transformation and inspiration delivered straight to your inbox? Well, you're in luck, because now you can. Introducing our fantastic newsletter, your VIP pass to all things exciting and informative. Join our community of growth-minded souls. Get the hottest topics delivered right to your inbox. It's quick, easy, and totally free. Just head over to our website at goboldlyinitiative.com and sign up for our newsletter today. Don't miss out on the next big thing. Stay connected with us. Subscribe now and get ready for some big, bold love. All right, welcome back. So here we are. You are having a worry spiral, a catastrophizing anxiety spiral. The infiltrating thoughts have infiltrated. What do you do? And a lot of these tips will also work with a panic attack. If you've had them, a lot of these are tips that they've given for panic attacks. There are also a lot of tips I've read in a lot of those books about PTSD. We are not giving medical advice, but if you read the books about medical advice, these are similar to that advice. So one of the first tips is deep diaphragmatic breathing, with the goal being this is essentially deep breath, but the reason is you want to target your diaphragm. The goal being to intentionally trigger your parasympathetic nervous system. And so that is all of this is to help escape the anxiety spiral. So sometimes the anxiety spiral is really, you're going to feel like it's not touching on your body, but I'm guessing it is, even if you don't realize it.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe it's just the tension in your shoulders. There are times where I don't realize that I am breathing shallowly or that I'm tense until I try to relax something, or until I try to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I can't do that right now.
Yeah, like I clench my jaw. Like a lot there are things that sometimes you don't even notice, as you're saying, you don't even notice you're doing it. And then suddenly you're like, why does my teeth hurt? Like what's happening? And then you're like, oh, I haven't unclenched my jaw in an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like I didn't realize I used to clench my jaw all the time until I had something that helped me not clench my jaw. And I was like, oh, it's not supposed to hurt when you bite into an apple. Interesting.
Details.
Dipping your face in cold water. And this kind of goes into touching something cold. So if you don't want to dip your face in cold water for 15 seconds, which is what it recommends, you could also splash your face with cold water. And also touching something cold, the temperature helps to counter the sympathetic response to stress. I had read a story about how in VA hospitals, soldiers who are home and struggling with PTSD, when they feel something coming on, they carry around cups of ice. And as they feel something coming on, they'll go and hold on to the ice because it's sending different signals to their brain. There's obviously a lot of science behind that, but essentially it's sending different signals to your brain. It's like, to me, it's like a distraction. And it honestly, it works. I will, when I feel something happening, or even I'll give it to my son. And I have one of those things that's supposed to like help with face puffiness, but his trigger for his migraines is anxiety. So we kind of use it as a twofer.
Yeah.
And he'll use the face puffiness frozen thing on his face. And it helps with the headache and the anxiety.
Yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah. So get moving outside. Getting outside is often the answer. But if you can't get outside, get moving inside. So get moving is often the answer.
Yeah. And the idea behind that is, of course, to like reconnect with your body, right? Like to remind your mind that your body exists and like put them back together. And try to stop that spiral from continuing forward.
I have often heard, we often talk about dance parties, but there is something behind that. The rhythmic aspect to actually moving your body in rhythm that has the power of resetting your body. It's also very hard to worry about things when you're dancing. You can.
Yeah, but it takes effort.
It's hard. Like it really is hard. So I would challenge you to do that. Right. Like when you are having a worry spiral, put on a song you like to dance to and worry. Go. Like just do it. See how it is. Because it is actually hard to worry about something when you are dancing. Another one I liked was tapping into your senses. I have done this. I have done this with my kids. Looking around a room, what are 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or even just like name 3 yellow things that you can see. Name 3 green things. I've talked to my son who struggles with anxiety about things that he can do in the classroom when like nobody else is paying attention. Like no one would know you were doing this.
Right.
A lot of it's distraction.
Yeah, but it's not just distraction in the sense of like, I'm going to do something distracting. It's distraction that triggers the physical body. When you're looking for things like that, sensory things, that's still your physical body. Like your senses are part of your physical body. And I really like some of these other ones where it's like muscle relaxation or progressive muscle relaxation. That's a tip they give you when you do public speaking a lot is if you get up to the podium and you're nervous, like squeeze your toes really hard and ground your toes. And that brings you back into your body. It makes you focus on the physical sensation of what you're doing with your physical body and stop focusing on the worry or anxiety or concern that might be like taking place otherwise. And, I do this I do that one with my kids, especially like if they have to go get a shot or something and they're like, oh no, it's part of why squeezing someone's hand helps because one, like, somebody's out there with you, but two, like it grounds you into your body because there's a physical aspect to it. And the more grounded you are in your body, the easier it is to move away from the worry, to like focus on, oh, I'm like giving myself a foot cramp right now, which is what I did the last time. But like if you focus on the physicality of it, you can take away some of that anxious thought process.
Well, and what I love about that is it's not relax your muscles. It's you're
Oh, it's the
actually
opposite.
clenching.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you release.
Right.
And then then you clench your calves and release. When I've done it before, and I did it as part of a meditation to help with a panic attack, it went up my whole body.
Yeah.
And it went all the way up to my shoulders. And I could not have told you that my face and my shoulders were clenched. I didn't realize they were clenched. My shoulders were touching my ears. They were so clenched. And I had no idea until I tried to clench them. And I was like, oh, I can't clench them anymore. And then I was like, oh, and it took 2 times. Like it took 2 cycles all the way through until I was finally able to relax my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to know how clenched I get, I've only had like a handful of like full-blown panic attacks, but the next day my back is always sore because I am so tight and so clenched. But I like that it's not like, oh, just relax your muscles. You're actually clenching and then releasing.
Yeah, because you can't relax something that you can't feel. And
yes,
when you are in the midst of a worry spiral, an anxiety spiral, nearing a panic attack, you're not feeling your body. And I don't like you're not feeling it. It's not there. You're entirely in the confines of your brain. And so when you do the things we're talking about, like touch the cold, talk about the senses, what can you see, what can you hear, clench your toes, all those things, it is taking you away from that like holding cell in your mind and putting you, sort of spreading you out through your body.
So it's important to note, these are all great things to do in the midst of a worry spiral because you're coming back to your body. It's why, as part of the tapping session, they brought it up so that we could tap, because that is something else that grounds you into your body.
Yeah.
These are also great things to do at bedtime, in the morning, in the middle of your day. These are great things to do. Like if you're like, I don't like meditation, fine. Do one of these things. Like it's grounding you in your body and it will help prevent the worry spirals because it's going to be lowering your stress level, your baseline, right? It's not eliminating, but it's reducing the likelihood of the tornado alley in your body.
Right.
Another thing that I think is really important, they talk about it a lot in burnout, in completing the stress cycle, is hugs and cuddles. Hugging, I believe it's an 8-second hug, can help complete the stress cycle. And I don't know, I try to do at least 1 8-second hug a day with my kids. Someday I'm better than others. My kids start fighting around 3 seconds. And at 8 seconds, their bodies relax. And then I can pretty much hug them until I don't want to hug them anymore. Like but something happens at 8 seconds that they are able to relax. And so cuddling, hugging, if you don't have a partner or a pet or a child to hug, a heavy blanket, a stuffed animal, some sort of just like comfort around your body. There's a reason that weighted blankets are a thing.
Yeah, I was just going to say that they work. I mean, and this is specifically why.
Yeah. So there is a way. And once again, this can be something that you do when you're in the midst of feeling anxious and worried. But also this is something to do when you're not, so that you can help reduce that stress level, to help with lowering the chance of these worry spirals. You're going to worry. Worrying is normal. Worrying is what makes sure that today, even though the high is 77, everyone's going to be packing a sweatshirt tonight because I'm going to be like, well, it might get cold at the end of the night and I want to make sure we have fun. That's because I'm going to worry that everyone's going to get cold. That's great. Fantastic. What we're trying to talk about is those worry spirals and make sure we don't,
when it's no longer useful, when it's no
Yes.
longer something that accomplishes what you needed to accomplish.
Yep. We've talked about like calling a supportive friend, literally shaking it out. I thought this was great. I mean, it's going back to that dance party, but you can also just stand up and shake, like shake your hands. You can't watch me, but you could go on YouTube and watch me, like shake your arms. It does, like, shake your legs. It really does help your nervous system kind of get awakened a little bit. So there's a variety of things that you can do. I liked the things that I read in one article, and it just said 4 things to remember the next time you're spiraling. Recognize it, right? So like be aware that, okay, I'm spiraling here. Ask questions, right? So this is when you're going to use your logical brain to say, okay, is this actually a problem? Maybe this is something that isn't a problem, but I got to deal with this later, right? Like I'm going to put a pin in this. Like this is a bigger issue. Have faith in your ability to cope, right? You know how to handle this, because we just told you, right? And you're going to practice this so you're ready for next time. So have faith that you know how to get yourself through a worry spiral, and then be kind to yourself, because this is all really hard, and you can handle this.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be fine. And everybody has these. And so I loved those tips when it came to it.
I think it's really important to remember that you are capable. And that if in the moment you feel like you're not capable, there is support out there, whether it's friends, family, professionals, or otherwise. Like there are ways to get through whatever is happening in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I found, we'll have some links and we'll share information, but the reading on this, it was really straightforward. There's a lot of resources. Also, this is one of those great places, whether you use the Calm app or Insight Timer, which we like, or Headspace. There are great meditations about this.
Yeah.
Like there are great full-on panic attack meditations, but they're great worry spiral meditations. They're great. I want to call my nervous system meditations, like fantastic places. So I think we're ready for our homework.
Yeah.
So homework. It's kind of layered, but I think you can imagine. So we talked about a lot of different things you can do, both before, to help prevent a worry spiral, and after a worry, once you're in a worry spiral. And as you notice, they're kind of the same, right? Like there's the things you can do to make sure that you don't get triggered in a worry spiral, and the things to do once you're in it. I want you to pick out 3 to 5 of them, right? Whether it is like, think of that calm, happy space that you can go to. Maybe it's a dance party, and think of 3 to 5 of them, write them down, put them in your journal somewhere. Maybe you put them in your planner, and just have like your worry spiral prevention kit, or whatever you want to call it. Write down your favorite song, for your dance party, whatever they are. If you like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 sensory method, think back and think of like those 3 to 5 things. So now next time you have it, you know where to go, and you're ready to go. And even better, practice them, right? Try to integrate a couple into your day, your week, your life, so that you can practice lowering those cortisol levels, lowering your stress levels. Hopefully some of the stuff you're already doing. Yeah. But maybe you can try to integrate a couple so that you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
I think that's about it.
That sounds fantastic. If you need help with any of that, obviously reach out to us anytime. You can find us online at goboldlyinitiative.com or on social media at goboldlytogether. We would love to hear from you, love to hear what's going on. And if you have any thoughts on anxiety spirals, feel free to share those with us as well. We will be back next week with another episode. And until then, everyone have a fantastic, wonderful week.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.
The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.